Hello, welcome to Lockdown Dads. I'm James Miller, author of Dads Don't Babysit and editor of workingdads.co.uk and father to two children who are 12 and 9. Each week we try and bring you a conversation which is interesting, illuminating, relevant and irreverent. And I'm joined as ever by Ian Dunwoody.
Hi everyone. My name's Ian. I'm a coach. My business is called Inspiring Dads, and I've got two kids. I've got a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old. And this week, I'm really pleased that we are joined by Freddie Bennett. Freddie and I have known each other for a year or so. He was a client of mine. We worked together for a chunk of last year in a coaching capacity. So I'm really pleased for Freddie to join us today. A little bit of background about Freddie. He's also a dad of 2. He has a Guinness World Record, which we'll get onto later on, but also he has an incredible energy, incredible desire to help people to make changes in their lives through adventurous activities. So Freddie, thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you both for having me here. It's an honour to be sat here talking to these two legends. And I was listening to what James said and trying to remember, in terms of being irrelevant and empowering and all those things. I will certainly try be more relevant than irrelevant. That's for sure.
Definitely. So Freddie, tell me what's been going well for you since we last spoke.
So it has been a crazy, curvy, twisty time, but in terms of what's going great, I think it's been really good to focus on, firstly, what matters and what's really important in our lives, and secondly, it's about learning. I've had a crash course in learning what we can control and what we can't control, and I'm trying, and I don't always get it right still, but I'm trying to focus on the things I can control in my life and worry a bit less about the things that are going on in the wider world that maybe impact us all, but we sometimes can't always control. So it's been really great to get that perspective and try to be empowered and trying to learn that I might be locked down, but I haven't been locked down, and try and take a number of things forward in my life.
Well, that's just a really interesting point. I think we always sort of start this with how are you and how have you been. That issue of control is possibly key to that question, isn't it? Of how are you? It is, accepting what you can control and accepting what you can't. The things we've talked about week on week about, whether that's schools or, just being able to get some time for yourself and all the sort of the things that we've spoken about over the last 10 years. 10 years. It's been a long lockdown. It's not been that long.
10 episodes.
It does kind of boil down to that issue of control, doesn't it? That is key to this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess James, I went deep quite quickly. Then I could have just said, yeah, I'm absolutely fine. But I thought I'd go straight in there and say, yeah, it's all about life and what we can control and what we can't control. And it's one of those things. It is to be okay and fine and feeling like we have a semblance of control every day. Then I think we do have to get some perspective in our lives and understand even when plans change, even when things get turned upside down somewhat, we still can focus on the little things and the important things, like our family, like making sure that our kids are happy and healthy and hopefully not killing each other if they're anything like mine, and try and do the best we can every day.
For you, Freddie, what were some of the biggest challenges in terms of those early days when we first went into lockdown?
So it was a crazy time looking back, and I mean, because I've obviously just had a haircut today, which was a big milestone. I was talking to the guy who was cutting my hair, and I last got my hair cut back in February. We were saying how much has the world changed then, and it has been quite a roller coaster. There were those early few weeks of I think disbelief, where we saw this thing coming on the horizon. First it was a problem in the Far East, and then it got to Italy, and then it was on our shore, then it was in the UK, and it was almost like watching a car crash in slow motion. It's going to happen and it's coming, but then when it hits, it still takes our breath away. And there was that feeling of uncertainty, and we talked about control at the start, and there was that very strange feeling of not only life being out of control, but that our own control was taken away. And all of a sudden, things that we took for granted every day in terms of taking kids to the park or going to the supermarket or going to work, they were taken away almost overnight. And I had my own fears, my own worries, in terms of my health, my family's health, my job, all these sorts of things. And then you've also got these two little people. My kids are 8 and 6, and it's trying to find that balance between not pretending everything's okay, because I believe that the kids should understand a version of what's happening in the real world, but at the same time, trying to be that person who wasn't scared, who was going to keep them calm. And it's funny, and I think when we talk about fatherhood as well, there's always that, that stereotype of needing to be the strong dad. And to coin a phrase, I needed to be an inspiring dad in this case, but it was inspiring as in trying to give them some confidence and some strength. And in that case, it was also saying, look, it's okay to be scared. It's okay to not have the answers. And I remember my kids just saying, look, when is school's going to be open? When can we do this? When can we do that? And I was just there saying, I don't know. And that was quite strange, because kids always look to us for the answer. And to be able to just sit there and say, look, I can't make this better. I can't solve these problems. And that was quite a difficult time. And as we went through that big dip of fear, effectively, then to chaos, I think, is probably the next stage. And that's where, because my wife's a frontline hospital doctor, so we had that worry as well, where she was going out into this thing every day, working 60-hour weeks, and it was a case of, you talk about some of the adventurous stuff that I've done, but I've got so every day, going to face this thing that everyone is so scared of, and where people and where their colleagues are dying. So she was dealing with that. I was working still, working full-time 4 days a week. So I was trying to keep myself afloat in my job. I had some days I'd have 5 or 6 hours of conference calls a day with these 2 children who I was trying to keep safe, keep happy, try and do some semblance of education and routine. And I've got to admit, I struggled, and my mental health took a pretty big hit, just in terms of trying to keep this household together, effectively being a single dad, just because my wife was at work so much. So I could put a brave face on it, or I could be honest with you both and say it was a bloody chaotic nightmare. And some days I didn't know how I was going to get through every day, but we keep going, and we get up every day, and we tell ourselves, just focus on getting through the next hour and the next hour, and then get to lunchtime, and then get to dinner, and then thank God you're at bedtime again, and you just keep going. And then the final thing is when we start to come out of it, and it's getting used to, let's get the phrase out of the way, the new normal, as everyone says, and trying to get used to this new way of life. And it's that kind of, it feels like the prize is being dangled in front of us at the moment, and like you can kind of have a little bit of freedom, but we might take it away again, and you can sort of go outside, but you sort of can't, and it might be a metre or it might be 2 meters, and it's just trying to get kids outside and get them happy and get them fulfilled again, and try and bring some sort of semblance of joy back to our lives. And then before you know it, someone mentioned you've got 6 weeks of school holiday coming up. I think I was thinking, well, I had totally forgotten about that. And then, let's hope Joe Wicks dusts off his trainers or something, or maybe I'm going to have to get on there on YouTube or something, because we're going to have a whole new routine all over again.
How big a change was that for you then? You say you work 4 days, so you already, you'd already made a decision about what your work-life balance was going to be, both for you and particularly sort of within your household with your partner. How big a change was it that you then had to take on such a big chunk of the mental load, the parenting, the everything, because obviously your partner's out fighting COVID? Was it a big switch for you?
Yeah, it was, and it was the whole 4 days a week thing. It was a decision I took about 8 or 9 months ago, because I have my own goals, my own dreams, my own businesses. I should probably say I've got nothing but respect for my employers and my previous employers and the corporate life. I think that's very successful and amazing for so many people. But I also had my own goals and dreams of things I wanted to create, things I wanted to achieve, things that with right at the start with Ian's amazing coaching, and Ian helped me to really clarify that picture of what I wanted my life to be all about, and what future I wanted to create for not only myself but also my family. So I made that decision to drop down to 4 days, and I was getting quite used to that. It was quite nice, really. Work for Thursday's the new Friday, and you get to Thursday night and you think, great, I get a chance to work on my own things, to help out around the home. And and I started to get used to it. And then as life has that way sometimes, you start to get used to something and think everything's all quite nice and calm now. Then coronavirus came and knocked it on its head, and it felt like I wasn't working 4 days a week, I was working 10 days a week, because I was not only being a full-time dad and house husband, I was trying to be a good employee and also trying to be a good business owner. At the same time, trying to do things like exercise, because exercise is something quite important in my life, not to, just sort of try and look good naked effectively, which I have varying degrees of success at, but certainly from a mental health perspective, and I know for my own mental clarity, and to be quite frank with you, for my own sanity, I know I need to just get out and run for half an hour, or just do something to get my body moving. It's like a mental spring clean for me. And I think I'm not saying everyone has to go and run marathons or Ironman races or anything, but just something just to get some fresh air, just to escape these four walls that can feel like they're closing in sometimes. And if I was too busy and I didn't get a chance to exercise, then I'd start to feel worse about myself. My mental health would get worse, and then the more crappier you feel, the less you want to get off the sofa or get out of bed, and it becomes a vicious circle. So it's a whole new routine to really start to get used to. And the only thing that's constant at the moment, it seems, is change. But we have to try and embrace some of the good things about being human, and try and adapt and change and overcome as best we can.
Has it changed you as a dad?
Yes, it has. I'm just trying to think if it's changed me for the better or not, to be totally honest with you. I think, looking back, I think it has. Despite the whole 4 days a week, despite, trying to be present at work and present at home and present as a dad and present in my own business, I think I sometimes got the balance wrong. I would sometimes do too much exercise or do too much work, or I would be at home, but I wouldn't really be present. I'd be the kind of dad that, the kid would be showing me the picture and I'd be like, yeah, brilliant, great picture, looks perfect. And that was looking at my phone, by the way, for the podcast people. That really wouldn't have worked then. And yes, I was trying to do the best job I could. I think I was getting really caught up sometimes on the things that weren't really important. And I was living a life potentially of comparison and saying, well, look at that family down the road. Their kids have got the brand new bikes, and the kids have got the iPads or things like that. And now I've realised that sometimes what my kids need is just for me to go and jump on the trampoline with them, or just to listen to them, or just to sit on the sofa with them and just talk about nothing. And I think that's what's really helped me in this, I was going to say in this crisis, but I guess it really has been, that I can't just fix any fatherhood flaws that I have by just saying, I know I'm going to earn more money and we'll go to Disneyland. We were going to go to Alton Towers for a weekend in June, and that got obviously cancelled. So it was thinking, well, what can I do to entertain my kids? And maybe more imaginative again. It was my oldest's birthday in June as well. That was going to be the whole Alton Towers thing. And they think, right, well, what can I do to give an 8-year-old the best birthday he's ever had? But I can't take him anywhere. We can't have a party. We can't go to Alton Towers. We can't go to, we all have those kind of, those get out clause places like the soft play centre or the park. And you think, I'll just get there for a couple of hours. That'll make it all better. Well, all that got taken away. So I had to do what dads have done for hundreds of years. I had to use my imagination and say, right, we're in this house. We've got this, this empty bottle and this pen and this bit of glue, and we're going to have the best birthday ever. And there's an 8-year-old who just used to play on Minecraft saying, what the hell are you talking about, Dad?
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point there, and that you remind me of a phrase that I've actually not heard for a few months, which is everybody else has got one, or everyone else is doing it. And I've just suddenly realised I haven't heard that for 4 months, because it hasn't been
exactly. Yeah.
And it's interesting you talk about having the best birthday ever, but surely it's the best birthday ever or the best whatever that you're laying on for your kids in the circumstances. And perhaps I don't know, it's not about actually having the best birthday ever, because that would be going to Disneyland, but it'd be going to Disneyland with you. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? You begin to understand what makes something the best ever is not necessarily where you are, but who you're with. And I know that sounds like a greetings card or something, but perhaps the experience has shown that to be true.
No, I totally agree, and yeah, I think it was. We were very honest about it. We said we can guarantee you're never going to forget this birthday, that's for sure. So let's make it memorable, but hopefully memorable for the right reasons. And you're absolutely right, James. It's not about the toys or the gifts or the trips. It's about trying to create the right sorts of memories with your loved ones, and there's always a way to find some positivity, no matter how scary the situation, no matter how hopeless things seem. We can always find the positive. Make an 8-year-old smile, then I'm not having a bad day. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, I think that bit around that wobble early on. I mean, I definitely had that about a week 10 days in, and I just wrote things down. I wrote down all the things that I was really grateful for, and all the things that all the things that weren't going to change, and all the things I could control and things I couldn't. And it's like, well, actually, some of this, there's not much I can do about it. And actually, in terms of the work I do, there will still be dads who still need inspiration, or they'll still need, someone to talk to, and that won't change. Just the way and the context is slightly different. James, we haven't asked how you are this week. What's been going well for you?
How are you, James? What's up?
I'm drunk. I've been in the pub all week. I'm joking. Right, first of all, I'm not drunk. Secondly, I haven't been in the pub all week. I have been in the pub a lot more than I anticipated, and this does kind of speak to this again rather twee point about who you're with and where you go. I would not consider myself a big pub goer. I'll go and meet my brother. I'll go and meet a mate for a pint once in a while. I'm not somebody who's down the pub every day. I've been to the pub 4 times this week.
Amazing.
Well, I went to the
so you went Saturday
club. I went and played golf with my son, and we went in the clubhouse afterwards and just had a J2O and a shandy. And then I went and met a friend for a pint Sunday, partly because I was just intrigued as to how pubs are going to work now. And then another friend was coming into town on Tuesday. He was like, "Do you want to meet for a pint?" I was like, "Yeah." And we were stood outside on the South Bank, so we weren't actually in the pub, and that actually felt much better because you're outside. And I don't know, somehow the whole you can't really catch coronavirus outside thing. It's better to drink outside than inside. And then last night again, there's a sort of bunch of us that would meet up once every 3-4 months. And because we haven't seen each other for 3-4 months, it was like, okay, let's go. And that was quite unpleasant, actually, because that pub was quite busy and that really didn't feel nice at all. But, I mean, the reason I've been to the pub so much is not because I've been desperate to go to the pub, but because I'm catching up with people. And that's actually been quite nice. Just to, like I say, it's a bit like that twee thing of I realised I don't really like the beer. I like meeting friends. It's the people I actually care about, not the pub or the beer. I mean, the beer's perfectly acceptable, but so it's been quite quite gratifying in that regard this week. I think in sort of understanding again, we've been through 4 months of this, and yet there is still sort of new lessons to learn about ourselves and about how we respond to stuff. So it's been quite nice in that regard, I would say. I'll put it back on you, Ian. How are you?
All right. We're doing a socially distanced picnic on Sunday, so not quite sure where. Somewhere in sort of the southern reaches, South London-ish, somewhere halfway between 2 families, and that's kind of that'll be a really nice kind of social side of things. I haven't been to the pub, I must admit. But what I did have this week was that my youngest, Struan, he went to school for 2 days. And he's in year 2, and so he wouldn't have gone back under other circumstances because he's not one of the sort of special chosen three year groups for primary. But they cut year 6 short, and then they brought in all the other years for a couple of days, and slightly disappointing that his bubble didn't feature his 4 best friends or any of his top 4 friends. So he was a little bit disappointed by that. I had to have a little word with the teacher in terms of, like, if we do this again, these are the 4. Any of these 4 is great. These other boys, they're lovely, and girls, they're lovely, but so from something he was really excited about, it was a little bit of a downer. But just the process of getting out the house and doing something, and actually, I love my children. However, what I find is that homeschool with Struan, who's 7, is quite stressful. in a way that homeschool with my 10-year-old daughter is not. So the last couple of days, Wednesday, Thursday this week, have been very chilled in terms of that home environment during the day. So I got quite a lot done actually, and we just kind of calmly, she asked me for some help, and I kind of helped her a little bit, and there was no shouting from either of us, because I think like you, Freddie, I think I'm as prone, I think, as many of us are to suddenly just go, oh, come on, this is not, we can't behave like this. I can't behave like this. You can't behave like this. Let's all chill out. And I am guilty of that as well. I mean, it's a thing. It's definitely a thing for me. So it's been nice for them to have a bit of normality in terms of school. And my daughter goes back next week, so she goes back Wednesday, Thursday next week for 2 days.
Let's just briefly mention shouting, because Ian and I did a panel this morning, and you can find it on LinkedIn if you look up Rachel Vext, who was a previous guest on this podcast, and she had us on her podcast essentially. But previous to that, I said, I'll go on this panel and tune in, and you'll hear why everyone's shouting. Now, somebody on the internet said, I'm not shouting, and my wife isn't shouting too. I don't think everybody is shouting. I was very pleased to be able to go, well, I don't mean in an angry way. This feeds into very much the socially distant picnic. If you go for a picnic and you've got to sit 2 meters away from someone, and you're outside, so there's birds and cars and stuff, you've got to raise your voice. That is one of the things of lockdown, is having to speak louder and doing Zooms and stuff. Naturally, you speak a bit louder it's like at the old days of mobile phones. Yeah, I'm on the phone. Yeah, it's rubbish. It's just everyone's shouting more in lockdown because we're all doing Zooms or 2 meters away from people.
And Freddie, you must have noticed this with the barber. I mean, my barber had a mask and a shield, and had to really raise his voice to kind of for me to hear him.
Yeah.
Did you notice that as well?
Yeah, it was weird. There was lots of raised voices. I mean, I had to be sat there with a mask and everything on. I didn't get my flat white because of hygiene reasons, which was obviously not the biggest disaster to happen in the world today. Yeah, I think it's the raised voice, and also I think it's strange how we've naturally picked up this behaviour, but now we back away from people, and whether it's people that we know or in the supermarket or in the street. As humans, we're naturally starting just to back up a little bit, and you sort of, I don't know how, it's going to be interesting to see how that really affects our long-term behaviours and the way we act around people, because now we're developing a habit of steering clear from people physically, which I think is going to be quite interesting to see how that one turns out.
Now, the people, of course, we try and back off most from is the runners, right? Because they're all running around with their breathing. Some of the runners, most of the runners are all right, but some of them are really, really not okay. Now, if I was to see a man running down the street in some sort of outrageous fancy dress, I don't know if that would account for any of us here. If I was to see a man running in a strange outfit, I think I'd be very justified in backing away from him and going, oh, he's a bit weird. What outfit would you be wearing, Freddie?
So I would be wearing a fisherman's outfit, and when I say a fisherman's outfit, I don't mean a nice, serene, fly fishing with your nice hat and your waistcoat and everything. I'm clearly not a fisherman myself. I'm talking deadliest catch garb. So I was wearing full, bright yellow, waterproof, heavy polyester jacket, trousers, hat, fishing box, and also not forgetting the welly boots, which was a bit of a tough thing to run in. I am the world's fastest fisherman, the fastest marathon run dressed as a fisherman.
Why? There must have been a reason.
It's an interesting story. I mean, so I'd come back. I'd gone through a period of change in my life before this, where basically my dad died very suddenly before my eyes, and before that moment, I was living a pretty unhappy life. I was in a hardcore, stressful corporate job that I didn't enjoy. I was really unfit. I was doing lots of unhealthy things, shall we say. I wasn't a runner or anything. From that moment, I changed my life, and I turned things around, and to cut a long story short, I went from not being able to do a park run to the world's toughest ultra marathon, which was 200 miles through the Sahara Desert, as you do. And I'd come back from that adventure, and like you do. I had the medal, and I was, talking to the kids, and I was giving it the whole, "Aren't you proud of me now, son? Look at what your daddy's done." And my children were like, "Nah, not really." It was quite cool when you did it, but now that was months ago, and you sort of like your jaw hits the floor. And I thought I could dine out on this thing for the rest of my life, but they were like, "No, Daddy, I don't think so. It's not that good anymore. I've forgotten about it." And my youngest, he'd received the Guinness Book of Records for Christmas, and he said, "Well, you know what, Daddy, I want you to break a world record." And then you kind of say, "Right, okay, off you go, watch Peppa Pig," and he'll forget about it. But the little chap, he didn't forget. Every day then he was like, "Break a world record, Daddy." Every time when you wake up, he's there next to you, like the Omen or something, like, "Break a world record, Daddy, break a world record." Oh, crikey, I'm gonna have to do it then. And we looked at the record book, and we thought, I was okay at running by then, so I thought, let's do a running record. And my kids, they love the sea, they love fishing, they love fishes and sharks and all those things. And obviously, a shark being a fish, but lots of those maritime creatures. And we live in Liverpool, which is obviously a proud maritime city. And then this record of the world's fastest fisherman came up, and the record was 4 hours 45 minutes. And I thought, yeah, that's fine. I've run through the desert. I can run a marathon in 3.5 hours by that point. I'll be fine. I was like, I can smash this. This will be easy. So I did a little email to Guinness Book of Records. Would you mind awfully if I didn't think anything more of it. And then a few weeks later, the email came back, and they were like, "Yep, fine. Application accepted. Off you go." And then I had to read it was about 4 pages of rules and regulations, because those Guinness Book of Records people, they're pretty strict. And it was, you have to weigh the fishing box, and you have to take a photograph of yourself every mile wearing the outfit, and all these things that, it turns into a real logistical challenge. And then the stipulation in terms of, I thought, like I say, rock up with a few fly fishing things in your hat and a fishing rod, and off you go. But then there's, they have to be wellies, and they have to be proper wellies, and there's no, putting your running shoes inside or any of those little workarounds that I thought of. And I was like, I guess this might go on LinkedIn, so I better not swear. But I thought, oh heck, that's going to be a challenge. And it's funny you say that with the analogy, because I only trained in the outfit once before the challenge. I only ran for 1 mile, because on that run, this was back before lockdown, when people could go outside, and there was a little old lady walking her little dog in the forest. And imagine if you're a nice, gentle little old lady, and this man starts running towards you, panting, dressed all in yellow. I looked cross between a serial killer and the world's worst male stripper. And the poor lady, you could just see her life flashing before her eyes, and I had to stop and apologise to her and make sure she was okay. And then I found myself on the start line for this marathon. There's quite a few metaphors for life in there, because I was dressed in this ridiculous outfit in the Liverpool Marathon, and I had 10,000 people around me that were runners, and they were all obviously dressed in sensible running clothes. It's a strange feeling having 10,000 people laughing at you when you want to do something different with your life, when you want to step away from the crowd, when you want to try and follow your own goals and your own dreams. And that means almost putting your hands up and saying, "Look at me, I'm going to be a bit different here. I'm going to be doing something that you don't understand." And I had 10,000 people laughing at me, telling me that I was stupid and telling me that I was going to fail. And in that moment, I know I could have quite happily made up some excuse, or said something was wrong. I could have walked away right then, and I know that people would have patted me on the shoulder and said, "Oh, it's okay, at least you tried." And I thought, no, because we have to take that first step forward whenever we want to achieve a scary goal or make a dream come true. Or it's not about running or the extreme things that I've done. It's anyone that wants to start a business or go on a new adventure or join a gym or start a new course or leave a job or start a job, whatever it is, you're going to get people around you that laugh at you and say you're doing something ridiculous. But you have to have that courage within yourself to take that first step forward and say, "No, I believe in myself, even when everyone else is telling me I'm stupid." And that's what I did. I took that first step. And then a mile down the road, I knew had the stupidest idea ever. And I knew I was in trouble. And I remember my family saw me a mile in, and they all said to themselves, apparently, they thought I was going to fail because I already looked terrible then. And I couldn't run properly, I couldn't breathe properly. And then I kept going and I kept going. Apologies if anyone's eating. Obviously, my toenails started to fall off about halfway round.
Yeah, there's a picture. I've got a picture of the back of Freddie's heels after the race.
All right.
I don't share it very often.
No.
And it got like that, and my wellies started to fill up, and they weren't filling up with water. That's for sure. And then, sorry, James. Happy Friday. But then I was getting I had about 6 miles to go, and I was trying to work out the timings in my head and going so many minutes per mile, and there's this. And I couldn't think straight, and I thought I was going to fail, and I really thought, and I worked out, I thought I was going to miss it by a few minutes, and I thought if I'm going to fail, I'd rather spectacularly fail and go off in an ambulance or something rather than just fall short. And then again, I thought, do I just quit now? And I've given people a laugh, they've all had a good laugh at me today, the silly fisherman guy, and I thought, my family are going to be there at the finish line, and I need to show my children that even if you think you're going to fail, even if you do fail, you need to carry on with this journey. And I kept going and I kept going. And then the finish line was in sight, and I was getting hotter and I was feeling worse. And I saw the finish line, and you had that thing, if anyone's ever fainted before, when you get that noise in your ears and your vision starts to go into that little tunnel and things go a bit black and white. And I thought, oh, crikey, I think I'm going to faint here, and I'm going to faint spectacularly in sight of the finish line. And I started to crumple and collapse and slow, and then I felt this little thing in my hand. I looked down, and it was my son's hand. And my children had jumped over the barrier, and they had both grabbed a hand, and they ran with me, and they basically pulled me and dragged me across the finish line. And I came across the finish line, and I collapsed, and then the announcements came up, and I think back to all those people at the start who were calling me foolish and calling me stupid and calling me a potential failure. But then the only thing that they were calling me was a Guinness World Record holder, because I'd broken the record by 7 minutes, and now anyone is free to take that record off me, because I am never ever running in a pair of wellies. That ridiculous outfit's in the bin now. I don't even take it out on Valentine's Day or anything like that. It's definitely never to be worn again. And I think that's why does these crazy goals and making people laugh and smile and showing children that they can achieve anything they want to achieve, why do you have to be a super rich dad or a privileged adventurer or an ex-special forces soldier or all these people that we see on TV? And I'm just an everyday guy. I'm an everyday dad. I'm not a runner. I'm not a super athlete. But I just decided to do extraordinary things and show my children that they can do anything they set their mind to. And rather than just talking about it, I thought I'll take some very massive, very extreme, very hot and painful and sweaty and yellow action and try and make it happen.
So, something about fatherhood in there, isn't there? There is fatherhood.
Yeah.
So in terms of, we're running a little bit short of time, but in terms of where that's gone, tell us a little bit about it, starting from zero and how you've channeled that your own energy into helping other people. So
everything I'm about, my mission is about helping people do the things they thought they couldn't do. Bit of a mouthful, that I have to take a breath. And as that's what I created a number of things. I've got my free Facebook group, which is called Starting at Zero, because basically whenever we try and do something new, and like I said, it's not about the crazy, you don't have to go and run a marathon in wellies. This might be that you want to start a course in art, or you want to write a book, or to start a business. Whatever we want to do with our life, it always feels like we're starting at zero from the start. And I believe that all of us, we've all got that thing in the back of our head that we've wanted to do. When it's that thing that you think about in the shower, or when you're in bed, or when you're supposed to be doing the work. You always think, oh, I wish I could do that thing one day. But then your brain comes in and it says, well, you can't, because you don't have the time or the money or the skills or the confidence. And Starting at Zero is to help people realize that they can achieve anything they want to do. The Starting at Zero book is coming out in January, and we've got a few exciting challenges taking place, namely the Starting at Zero challenge, which I'm going to be taking 10 everyday non-athlete, non-running people And together, we're going to run the length of the UK from John O'Groats to Land's End, 35 marathons in 35 days. So it's taking massive action again to show that anything is possible. So if either of you gents fancy dusting off the running shoes, I've got a startingazerochallenge.com is where you can go to apply.
Yeah, sorry.
We're almost out of time, so we're going to have to wrap it up there. Yeah.
We'll put that in the show notes where we access to the starting at zero group and all the rest of it. This week's tip is don't run a marathon dressed as a fisherman. That's a tip.
That sounds like a big that sounds a big tip. My big tip is about haircuts, and I feel like $1 million having had my haircut. I mean, mine just kind of goes. I've got no curliness at all, so mine was just sort of straight, and I just felt entirely liberated by the process of having a haircut. So that would be my top tip for this week: is book yourself in for a haircut. James, your haircut is coming soon.
Yeah, coming soon. The beard cut as well in 10 days or something from now. The countdown is on for the end of the lockdown beard.
Awesome.
Links to the Start to Zero Facebook group will all be in the show notes.
Perfect.
Which will be available on Ian's website.
Yeah, thank you very much everyone for joining us. This has been episode 11 of Lockdown Dads. So you can listen and watch other episodes in the series by going to inspiringdads.co.uk, and there's a big orange button which is called Lockdown Dads, where we've got a number of really interesting guests and really interesting conversations. I've been Ian Dinwiddie. James has been here as always, and thank you very much, Freddie, for joining us, telling us your incredible marathon story, but also some of your experiences as a dad in lockdown.
Thank you very much, guys. It's been a pleasure to talk to you all. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you very much, everyone. We'll see you next week for episode 12. Thank you.